back. We have been covering the unfolding post office scandal a lot here on this programme at Talk Today, and now we want to show you this image.
It was taken at the private members' establishment, the Carlton Club, in 2014.
On the left is Simon Blagden, who was the non-executive chairman of Fujitsu, which ran the Post Office Horizon IT system. He's now left the company.
You'll probably recognise her. Sat on the right is Paula Vennells, who was the CEO of the Post Office and has since handed back her CBE.
In the middle is Kevin Hollinrake, who was a parliamentary candidate for the Conservative Party at the time. He's now the Post Office Minister.
In the middle, there's Liz Truss, who, of course, became Prime Minister. At the time, she was a government minister.
And either side of Liz Truss and Lucy Frazer and Andrea Jenkyns, who were also parliamentary candidates at the time. Lucy Frazer is now the Culture Secretary. Well, Richard Brooks, a journalist at Private Eye magazine, brought this photograph to light today. You can see it in Private Eye, and Richard joins us this morning. Richard, there's a lot of interesting personalities in there, where they were then and where they are now. Yeah. But just tell us why this photograph is significant.
Morning. Well, I think the significance is that we know a lot about the post office scandal already. We've learned a lot about how it happened through all the reports, the ITV drama, the inquiry, and so on. But what we haven't really seen is why, what the atmosphere was at the very highest level.
And at 2014, we ought to say that the cover-up was in full swing, wasn't it? There had been questions in Parliament about the state of the post office system. There were claims that miscarriages of justice had been going on. But the post office was saying, no, the Fujitsu Horizon system is completely robust. Fujitsu weren't saying anything at all. And we've now got a post office minister who back then was sitting with Paula Vennells and a guy from Fujitsu.
That's right. Of course, this is several years before Kevin Hollinrake became the Postal Services Minister, and he probably wasn't to know where he was going to end up. But this photograph shows a couple of things which I think are interesting. One is that there's a closeness between the current Postal Services Minister and the long-time chairman of Fujitsu UK, Simon Blagden. Kevin Hollinrake was about to become Simon Blagden's MP. Simon Blagden was is a major donor to the Conservative Party, over £400,000. And I understand that he was bringing Kevin Hollinrake along to this event and kind of introducing him as his soon-to-be MP. Kevin Hollinrake had just been selected as candidate for the Thurston Moulton constituency, and he was about to be elected in the May 2015
I mean, this is fine. This is Carlton Club kind of politicking, isn't it? I mean, the question is, what was Paula Vennells doing there, the chief executive of the Post Office?
Well, I think that's the other big issue. We go back to the time. Paula Vennells was chief executive of the Post Office. She should have been holding Fujitsu's feet to the fire over this IT system that was going wrong. Rather than covering it up, she should have been saying, what on earth is going on with this system that we're paying you hundreds of millions of pounds for? But there she was, being schmoozed by the chairman of Fujitsu UK not just at any old event, but at a political dinner,
So
at a
can you just remind us
fundraiser.
the context of the event was what?
This is an annual event. It wasn't. I don't think it was actually at the Carlton Club. It was called the Carlton Political Dinner, and it was a Tory party fundraiser. So donors would host tables, bring along guests. Obviously, as you can see, quite influential, quite important guests, up-and-coming MPs. So it was a kind of way of, one, raising money for the Tory party, and two, kind of getting to know people who might be very useful to you.
Is this all a bit of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, though? I mean, we know that there was a conspiracy at the Post Office at the time, because this is what has come out of the public inquiry. But this, I'm sure all the participants would say, is perfectly harmless, perfectly above-board event. It's a Conservative Party fundraiser. Of course,
networking.
Of course, Paula Vennells is going to be in contact with her chief IT supplier. What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with her meeting her chief IT supplier. But if she's taking a nice dinner off him at a political event, at a fundraiser, then that's the kind of schmoozing that I think most companies now would say is not acceptable. I looked at the Post Office's own code of conduct. I mean, the current one, I'm not sure what it was in 2014, but it currently would not allow this kind of thing. It's only minimal hospitality that's allowed, because these things are influential. If you're expecting a chief executive to go and argue against their IT supplier, to say, what on earth is going on here? We're paying you millions for a system that's causing all these problems, sort it out. They're going to be much less likely to do that if they just had a very nice dinner. a very nice black tie dinner with lots of important people and you know, at a very convivial time. That's not the kind of atmosphere in which people who should be operating at arm's length really should be doing their business.
Kevin Hollinrake, in that photograph, is now the Post Office Minister, so he has a huge degree of responsibility now in things like working out compensation payments. This is potentially awkward for him at best.
I think it is, and we asked Kevin Hollinrake about his relationship with Simon Blagden, the then Fujitsu chairman until 2019, and he said that he engaged with him on a number of occasions, as you would expect, because he was his MP. But I mean, it's not normal for an MP to engage with an everyday constituent a number of times. You know, I've never met my MP. I'm not sure if you've met yours. So this was a big donor. Kevin Hollinrake clearly has some kind of association with him. And that does pose questions about whether he's the right person to be holding Fujitsu to account now. And that's a big stage in the Post Office scandal, holding Fujitsu to account.
I should just say, Kevin Hollinrake said Simon Blagden, as you've said, was a constituent of mine. I engaged with him on a number of occasions, as you might expect. In the normal course of my duties, all of my interests are declared in the usual way. What this photograph does do is it sort of sharpens focus of questions of who knew what when and the coziness of their relationship.
Yeah, that's the word. I mean, it is a coziness, and it's on a number of levels between the company, the Post Office, the governing party at the time. There looks to be a politicisation of what should have been an independent government-owned body. So it's all just a bit too close. And you know, you look at those people and you think, are they really going to go in and ask the hard questions on the biggest scandal that we've seen in
Sadly, it's
decades?
just a photograph. It's a great photograph, and thank you, and thanks, Private Eye, for bringing it to light. But I wish we could have a fly on the wall in there, and that's why I suppose we need to get them to answer questions about what actually was discussed at that meeting.